I'm Captain Mike, and in this video I'm going to address a couple of problems that beginning slip casters might have. I run into it all the time because I'm making my own slip. But let's say you buy yourself some slip, doesn't matter whether it's high fire, low fire, or whatever it is, and it comes in them little boxes, you know what I'm talking about, and you don't have to mix it or anything. And so you take it and you pour it in your bucket, however you're going to dispense that slip into your molds, and you have at it. Well, maybe you don't pour it all at one time, and like me when I started, and still sometimes, because I kind of go into glass and go into woodworking and then come back and do some clay, you'll find that your slip has gotten kind of thick, too thick to use. So what I'm going to show you in this video is something that you can do to revitalize your slip. Now this is for beginners, okay? Those of you who know a lot about slip casting may have a lot of tweaks I'm not going to show. I'm just going to keep this really simple, and we're going to go from there. Now, what I'm talking about is your slip gets really, really thick. See this stuff up here? I mean, we're talking pancake batter or thicker, and it just won't. First, you can't strain it, because I always strain my slip. I have a bucket with a gate on it, and I'll open the gate and I let the slip come through the gate into a sieve, and I sieve it. It's one of them little roundedy strainers you strain flour and stuff with, and that gets all the lumps and stuff that just by nature occur even after you've stirred it up good. So you know, it'll when it gets thick like this. Forget where I was going. So it gets thick like this, you're going to need to do something. Now this is just some regular high fire slip. I made it, okay, from some clay that I had that had gotten too lumpy and I didn't want to bother with wedging it. And this one is some of my river clay, okay? It is the same way. It starts off really thick. In fact, this is a little thicker than that clay. And but it doesn't matter. In fact, this is an extreme example. Your slip will probably never get this thick, but I'm going to show you what you can do to make it thin again, and it's very easy to do. Now, what I use to thin this is one of two things. You can use water and just start adding water slowly as you stir it, and it will liquefy. It will become to whatever state you like to pour with. And another thing you can do, but now let's back up just a minute. Water will saturate your molds very fast. So you might get one pouring, maybe two if you're lucky, one pouring out of a clamshell to a two-piece mold, or even a one-piece mold, and then you have to wait to dry them out. So what is suggested by most of the industry is to use sodium silicate, and that is something that just, it's a material that causes the molecules between the water and the clay to separate and liquefy without adding any actual water or liquid content to the clay. Now, I originally bought sodium silicate from a company. It's not important who I bought it from. It was a company that supplies clay products, and it comes under several different names, and actually I think there's a couple of different products that are chemically a little different. That's something that you can go to and research on your own. We're going to stay with sodium silicate. And why? Because you can pay about 20 bucks for a name brand product like this, or that's 16 ounces by the way, or you can go online and get you some floor sealing compound for about $22 delivered. That's Amazon Prime. I can get it cheaper somewhere else. This is a whole gallon and it's the same thing, okay? Now it might not be exactly the same thing as some of these various and assorted products sold by the clay supply companies, but it does the same thing. And that's a lifetime supply for me right there. So what I want to show you is how very little it takes. Now I'm going to use this little thing right here, and I'll probably have to just continue to drop it in there until I get it where I want it. But I want you to notice how little of this stuff it takes. And I can't state that enough. When you're experimenting with your clay, go slow, little at a time, and stir it until you know exactly how much it takes. Now there's about 3 cups of clay here, and we're going to go with this river clay first because it may liquefy quicker than this. I'm going to start by beating it with this. Let me get a whisk, okay? Okay, I've got a little whisk. What I'll do is I'll put the sodium silicate in this one first. We'll kind of try to keep an idea on how much we're putting in it. Okay, that looks to me, well, I can't read it, my old eyes, but it's that much in that tube right there. I think that's going to be a gracious plenty. We're just going to put that around in there like that, all the way down, and then we're going to start stirring, and we'll see how this comes out. Now I'll probably cut some of this out because we're going to sit here and stir. We don't want to do that, so y'all hang in there. Okay, that did not take long, and that was a gracious plenty. It was just, I think that was like 2 milliliters. I think that's what that was, 2 milliliters. And here's where we are. You see that? Look at that. That will pour in a mold. You can make it thinner if you want to. But that is the river clay that I use. And if you remember, it looked like that. Literally a glob, okay? Now, we've got this one here. We're going to put 2 milliliters in this one. Let's see if I can pull 2 milliliters up. Yep, that's about 2 milliliters. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put all that 2 milliliters in there. And we're going to take our whisk, wash it off right quick, and we're going to stir it up. Don't take long. I mean, it just liquefies it that quick. Look at there. That may be too much. 2 milliliters may have been too much for 3 cups of clay. That's why I said start slow. Start with maybe half a milliliter, 1 milliliter, whatever you think, into say 3 cups. Work it up or down. I mean, I have no idea what you're going to be working with, so I kind of have to go with what I've got, show you what it does, and you guys just kind of go from there. What I wanted to show you, and what is important, is that you go from something like this, that glumpy stuff, boy, that went everywhere, that was a good one. You work with something like that, this, into something like that. I mean, literally dripping off of the spatula, or the whisk, excuse me. Get a better idea of it like this. You see it? You hear it? I mean, it's liquid. That's probably a little too liquid, but maybe not. Now, with that said, that is my preferred way to do small amounts. You might want to start by adding a little water, getting it halfway where you want it, and then add sodium silicate. And I'll tell you why. Because some have said, I've read it somewhere, and so it's online, so you know it's got to be true, that sodium silicate will, over time, be detrimental to a plaster mold. I have no idea what it means. I make my molds. They're not made out of fancy plaster. They're made out of industrial plaster. I do have some commercial molds. I pour the same slip into them. I have noticed no degradation so far. Maybe they mean on a commercial level where you're pouring lots and lots every day. I don't know. If you know that, please let me know. Make a comment below and tell me about the effects of sodium silicate on a plaster mold over a period of time, because I'd like to know. So that's what we have on the sodium silicate. Like I said, to sum up, add water, then add some sodium silicate, whatever you want. It's also called water glass. And I'll try to put some links below on where you can buy the various products. But that's all there is to say on that. Now, I have one more tip that I'd like to show you that you run into. In fact, I run into it today. And that was, I had just a little bit of slip left. It was not much. I had been experimenting and playing with something, and I had a little bit left. And so I had a two-piece clamshell mold, and I poured it in it. The slip didn't fill it up. And I said, well, kind of messed that up. So I'll just show you a quick trick that I use. Probably everybody uses it. I don't know. But show you a real quick trick on what you can do if you don't have enough. So you take your clay. In this case, it's Red River clay. It does not matter. And I have this little mold here. And you start pouring. You're just as happy as you can be, and you're pouring this stuff in, and pouring and pouring and pouring, and you're pouring, and it don't get up to the top. About a ½ inch from the top. And you say, oh no, I needed it all the way to the top. For whatever reason, you needed it all the way to the top. Who knows? Granny might have wanted you to put it all the way to the top, but it didn't go to the top. So what you going to do? Well, the first thing I decided to do was get me a glass, a little glass like this. We're going to use the standard liquid displacement idea. So I took a little glass, whatever size you need. You might need a big one. You might need one with a really heavy bottom so it'll go down. Of course, this would be way too much. This one I just happen to know will stand straight up. So what the first thing I do is I just put it right in the middle. And watch it not stand straight up. Ah, it didn't. We can fix that. Take you a little water, put your little water in it. Make the bottom heavy. There you go. And just keep adding water until the thing goes down where you need it. Now, again, experiment with this, okay? We're doing this here on my work table. It's not perfectly level. And you really don't want this thing to go all the way to the bottom, which it is. It won't hurt nothing really, unless it goes slap to the bottom past the clay. But the idea here is to put something. You can use a plastic cup. Experiment ahead of time. Learn what it takes to do this, and then put your receptacle in there and start filling it with water until it comes up to the level that you want it. And then as it shrinks out, which it will, it'll drop. The level of the stuff will drop. If your receptacle is floating far enough from the bottom, you might have to use a bigger one. Then you just keep adding water. And as you add water, the piece floats down, it displaces more clay until you get it where you want it and keep it where you want it. Again, experiment with it. Everything I do is just one big fun experiment. So don't get too terrible mad at me if it doesn't work. And if you have better ideas or additional ideas, then hey, let me know, because I like ideas from other people. I don't mind using them. I don't mind sharing them. So that's it. That's my two big things about this video. I'm going to keep it short. I wanted to show you about the water glass or the sodium silicate. I think it's called a deflocculant, something like that. You know what I'm talking about. And you can save your slip that has gotten thick and reuse it down to the little smallest amount, which is what I do. And then if you end up pouring some stuff in your molds and you don't have enough clay and you don't want to just throw it all out and wash them home, start over, then put you something in it like this, bring the level up, let it absorb, and you're good to go. Okay, I'm Captain Mike, and that is my video on a couple of things that you can do with slip that's kind of old like me. I'm Captain Mike, and I'm out of here.